skills, community engagement, and extensive research publications. Today, Dr. Chukwuma will be presenting her research on the effect of transformational leadership on employee resistance to change at Itigrini Automobiles. With a particular focus on leaders' inspirational motivation, this study provides valuable insights into how transformational leadership can effectively reduce resistance to change and improve organizational commitment. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Nonye Emanuela Chukwuma.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending my presentation. So I think she's done enough. Thank you so much, Anastasia, for that wonderful introduction. I'm Dr. Nonye Emanuela Chukwuma. I'm presently a postdoctoral research fellow at the University of Technology. And I find my research presentation quite interesting, but a bit digressive from all that the presentation we've had on, artificial intelligence, and it's all about technology. And yeah, but then again, I see research as a quite multidisciplinary study. So in some sort of way, I'm able to relate to every discussion and research presentations thus far. So I want to start by mentioning that this is a research study, actually a paper that I've written with my postdoc supervisor, Prof. Robert Walter Duminisani Zondo. It was actually published this year, and it's an objective from my PhD thesis. And so the topic is on transformational leadership, basically, at the automobiles. But I would love to say that everything that has to do with change, even with IT, artificial intelligence, this is something that, staff and employees struggle with. Not everyone is good at technology. Not everyone is good at accepting change. So I find this study quite interesting because we're going to see how proper leadership and management could motivate and inspire workers and employees to enjoy accepting change in order to improve the quality of work performance. I mean, at the end of the day, we can't have quality products without, inputs. There was a previous presentation where the presenters were focusing more on output, and a question was thrown at them that they ought to give more discussion on the inputs, what processes and systems are set in order to achieve that output. And I believe that the input starts with we as human resources. And so basically, we're going to look at how leadership or management could help workers, being human resources, being an aspect of human resources, to put in quality input in order for us to get quality output, which is service delivery. So I'll start with my presentation by, the table of contents, which composes of abstract, introduction, problem statements, research aims and objectives, literature review, research methodology, analysis, discussion, implication of the study, and conclusion. And then we'll move to the abstract. Summarizing, I would just love to say that, there's been quite a number of studies that has looked at the essence of leadership, in order to achieve quality workers' performance. But then again, I narrowed down this study to inspirational motivation, which is an aspect of transformational leadership. We can't even begin to talk about artificial intelligence if we don't have good transformative leaders. And so, since we're focusing on transformational leaders, I would love to say that this study, based on the abstract, is redefined to take an aspect of transformational leadership, which is inspirational motivation. So we're looking at how leaders could inspire and motivate their workers in order to produce quality service deliveries. And based on this study, we looked at the automobile sector. The automobile sector is a sector that actually contributes a major part of income to South Africa. And I found it interesting because they introduce changes in sort of ways that makes their employees, get frustrated, work burnout, and they lose the trust for their leaders. And with these concerns, I thought it's good for us to look into this automobile industry, especially at the Etiquini Automobile, where 170 staff members were identified to participate. Based on the study, we used the multi-leadership questionnaire in order to, as a type of research instrument, and data was analyzed through descriptive and correlational analysis. And the study indicated the mediating role of inspirational motivation in improving the quality of employees' performance regarding their resistance to change. The result also implied that managers and change management interventionists could formulate human resource development to improve change management planning programs. I mean, if those leaders, managers could look at ways to introduce changes in the organizations to reduce stress, we learn at different capacities and different abilities, but if there could be a way to meet each worker halfway, individually and uniquely, I believe that it will also improve the quality of the workers. So moving on to introduction without much to say, because basically I've talked about most of the introductory aspect in the abstract. So the study is emphasizing on the mediating role of inspirational motivation, and with a particular focus to inspirational motivation. Okay, so based on this research study, it has pointed out that there are clear concerns about employee skepticism, reluctance to embrace new change. I mean, I remember a couple of years back where AI was introduced, ChatGPT. It took me a while to understand what ChatGPT was all about. And I believe there are one or two people that struggle as well with certain technological, introductions. So it takes a good leader. In fact, in every organization, it takes a transformative leader to ensure that staffs and workers are able to accept change, commit to change, and give their best to change. And based on the study, investigation revealed that challenges faced by South African automotive sectors were caused by change management, their mode of change management implementation. It deteriorates the workers' performance. If workers are just forced to accept change, forced to accept, how AI is being run and all of that, without proper guidance, without proper vision set, without proper examples led by the leaders, unfortunately, we know that it will tell on the workers' performance and reduce the quality of service delivery. So basically, the problem statement still goes back to the fact that inspirational motivation as a leadership practice is hardly recognized in most organizations. The research aim and objective of the study focuses on the impact or the influence of transformational leadership, basically an aspect of transformational leadership which is inspirational motivation and its impact on the quality of employee performance. And based on this, we want to see how inspirational leaders could help to improve quality of workers' performance, by reducing their resistance to change. When you're able to reduce resistance to change amongst employees, it improves the quality of their work performance. So this is the overarching aim and objective of the study. And based on that aim, we're able to get some sub-objectives, which has been outlined below. Time will not permit me to read that out. So we move to the literature review. On the literature review, we focused on the transformational leadership theory. This theory was formed by Baz and Riggio in 2006. And based on the foundation of this theory, it stated that there are 4 constructs of transformational leadership. We have the idealized influence. Idealized influence is based on leaders who set by example. Like for instance, you introduce certain kind of AI mechanisms. You as a leader should stand as an example. You don't be a boss without setting, showing the actions, taking the actions for your staffs or workers or subordinates to learn from you. Then we have intellectual stimulation. This is also a type of transformational leadership style, which is our major, intellectual stimulation is also a construct of transformational leadership, but basically these leaders focus on stimulating the intellect, stimulating innovation, creativity in the minds of their workers. Then we also have individualized consideration. Based on this aspect, these are certain types of leadership leadership management style that focuses on, following each individual member based on their capacities. As I said before, we learn at different capacities, so it's always good to meet the capacities of your workers wherever they are. Some people are faster to cope with AI, some people they need more time. So meeting them at their various, spaces is very important. And then finally, we have the last construct, which is inspirational motivation. And I would love to say this is what our research is about. So based on this 4 constructs of transformational leadership, we're taking just that last construct and we're building the study on inspirational motivation. And inspirational motivation is talking about setting, there are certain standard expectations that you want your employees to achieve. And because you want them to achieve such kind of expectations, you motivate, you encourage, rather than impose the change on them. And then we also look at the factors of resistance to change that affect the quality of work performance. There are numerous kind of issues that will trigger, the deterioration of work performance. Some could be stress related, some could be lack of trust on the leaders, lack of autonomy, low self-esteem, trigger job insecurity. I mean, at some point, if you're not able to cope with the changes introduced, you start getting worried that you might lose your job. So these are the things that affect the quality of work performance. And based on this, we also have to look at the factors of resistance to change. Sorry, I would like to go back to the previous slide. There's something I forgot to mention, that resistance to change also is it has its dimensions, right? It has dimensions, because resistance to change has to do with the inability of workers to, the inability of workers to accept change. So when workers are not able to accept change, there are certain dimensions that lead to it. First, it could be cognitive rigidity. Their cognitive understanding or comprehension is low. So that could be a factor of that causes resistance. There could be routine seeking. Some people are used to doing things in a certain pattern. And when you change the patterns for them, I would believe that people from before the millennials, we have this generation before the millennials, what do you call them again?
Baby boomers.
Baby boomers, yeah. The baby boomers, they don't adapt to change as much as the millennials and the Gen Zs, right? Is that true or not? I mean, that's what research says. So when you have baby boomers a lot at your workplace, and I carried out this research, interestingly, that was what I discovered during my research investigation. Most of the generations from the baby boomers, based on the questionnaires and results collected, it was seen that they suffer this routine seeking, right? They are used to particular routine way of doing things, and it's difficult to break out of it. So when there's AI, whatever, or technology introduced, they struggle a lot compared to the Gen Zs and the millennials. So that is routine seeking for you, which is a factor that tends to, cause them to resist change. We also have emotional reaction. Based on, behavioral patterns, people react differently. Some people react more quickly or more angrily or more frustrated than the others. So these are basically the kind of factors that affect resistance to change, and they, at the end of the day, also affect their work performance. Because, if you're someone that easily gets angry and frustrated, there's tendency for you to not to put in your best or quality delivery services. So based on these factors of resistance to change and how it affects workers' performance, we can also talk about the role of transformational leadership in this in reducing resistance to change. So based on Bass and Avolio's research study and others that have carried out, other scholars, it was seen that when they introduced transformational leadership to an organization based on idealized influence, since idealized influence are leaders that show by example, now if you're a worker and your leader is showing by example, you're inspired to do what your leader is doing because he's showing example. You're inspired to do what he's doing because he's charismatic in nature. You also want to prove to him that you can cope with, his kind of pattern or the pace he's setting. We also have intellectual stimulation. By such reason, it means that those leaders are stimulating their workers to give in to change, to accept change, to commit to change. They stimulate them by creating environments that make work conducive, and by so doing, improving the quality of work performance. We also have inspirational motivation. You not only encourage, you also allow them to get involved in decision making, be more innovative, create room for innovation and creativity. I mean, when staffs are allowed to share their innovations, their problem solving skills, it actually improves the quality of their performance and service delivery. Finally, individualized consideration. When you're able to meet, as a leader, when you're able to meet all your staffs at their paces of understanding, it also creates a more conducive atmosphere for them to give their best and deliver quality performance. I think I've said enough about the mediating role of inspirational motivation, so I'll move to the next slide. I've also talked about the effect of inspirational motivation, but this is a deeper explanation of how inspirational motivation, which is a construct of transformational leadership, but now focusing more roles that inspirational motivation will play in reducing resistance to change and improving the work performance. So this is basically what our hypothetical analysis look like. We have 3 hypotheses we developed from the construct of our resistance to change. We have the routine seeking, which I talked about, that the baby boomers are used to routine way of doing things. So we wanted to test how inspirational motivation has a mediating role, as a construct of transformational leadership, the mediating role it plays on reducing routine seeking, reducing cognitive rigidity, and reducing short-term focus. Short-term focus has to do with workers that are able to assimilate for a short-term period. Say, for instance, a type of change has been introduced in your organization. You can only grasp it for a little length of time, and then after a while you forget. But when you have an inspirational motivation leader in your organization, he has a tendency to encourage you, bring you back to what you've been taught, and renew your mindset, make you just get used to the changes, basically. So the research methodology, we looked at 660, there are 660 automobile organizations in South Africa, according to research investigations. But I think our sample size were based on 13 subdivisions of automobile in the eThekwini. And so I listed their subdivisions. I looked at 6 major organizations, automobile organizations, and then their subdivisions all around the eThekwini region. And our method of data analysis, as I said earlier, was a multi-regression analysis, which was correlational. Yeah, and then the questionnaire was designed through that multi-leadership questionnaire. And based on our analysis, the relationship between the role of inspirational motivation and the varying dimensions of employee resistance to change, which was displayed in our previous hypothetical development, which included routine seeking, cognitive rigidity, and short-term focus as our independent research variable. And on this leads to the table that is put up here now. So basically, this is what our research variables for the study look like. Inspirational motivation is the independent variable, right? That's a leadership practice that we're actually suggesting for the study. And then it looks at the independent variables were the routine seeking, the short-term focus, and the cognitive rigidity. On the other side, we have the indicators, the items that were used to test the study. So based on those indicators, we came up with a regression table. And each and every of the hypotheses, they have H1, H2, H3. It led to the study's results. H1 suggested that inspirational motivation is not significant to routine seeking, which means that inspirational motivation has no relationship with resistance to change. In other words, inspirational motivation cannot cause resistance to change. There's no relationship. And if it cannot cause resistance to change, it means it can improve the quality of work performance. And same goes for the second and the third. Because at the end of the day, we're looking at how inspirational motivation can improve and not cause resistance to change. And based on the results, our discussion ends with the notion that inspirational motivation could be a suggestive leadership practice to be introduced, not only to automobiles, I mean, even in higher education. I've written a literature paper based on how transformational leadership could help staffs and students engage. I mean, when you have managers in the higher education that are introducing AI and forms of teaching online and all of that easily for staffs are able to learn more easily. But to have leaders that are not transformative, they are more transactional, they are more impulsive, they are more on the harsh side, not encouraging. That's our reality today if we want to be sincere with ourselves. So the essence of the study is just to encourage that we have more inspirational, motivational managers and leaders in our organization in order to improve the quality of work performance. And the implication of the study, it states that, this study based on the investigation and the results gotten, it indicates that it could help managers and leaders, and there was something interesting about one of the previous presentation where the presenter talked about, or the person that was discussing talked about, not just doing a study to add to your achievement or add to your outputs, but also looking at how the results we get from your study could actually help your community and your organizations. So beyond writing papers and articles and adding to your output, how has this paper or how are your papers improving your communities, improving your organizations? I think basically that's the practical implication from the study. How do we take it further from just adding to our output, but making sure it's being practiced. I've discussed this paper with a few people that I actually I collected their, I carried out investigation in their organizations. I just shared my feedback and to see how they could also encourage their leaders or their managers to, think about inspiring and encouraging their workers to improve work service delivery. I would love to end my discussion on that note. Thank you so much.
That was really an interesting topic and a loaded one at that. To try and cram it into 20, 30 minutes is quite a task. I know that some of you will have some questions that you're already lacking in your mind. Deb, I knew you were going to raise your hand first. Okay, we'll take 10 minutes for questions. We've got a little bit more, 15. Oh! You go second.
Thank you so much, Doc. We meet again.
Yes, we meet again at the last conference.
Absolutely.
Yeah. To see
Thank you very much. I like this is just one of my passions as well when it comes to management and leadership in Africa. You looked at transformation, but I think my question is more of a forward thinking for you.
All right.
I'm wondering, transformational leadership, the findings you have found with this study now, if you were to do the same study from an Ubuntu leadership perspective, would you have the same findings? I struggle with leadership that lacks the touch of servant and Ubuntu leadership combination. Because my challenge with transformational leadership as much is about inspiring, motivating, and so on. But then it lacks the human touch of it. It then falls back into transactional and those other hierarchical kind of leadership. That's just my maybe it's a comment.
It's a contribution? It's like a contribution, more like so.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Forward thinking maybe.
All right, thank you for that observation. Actually, I'm even carrying out a different project entirely now, moving forward from next year. I want to relate more with the community. And I think that is more Ubuntuism, permit me to say. So let's see what the future holds. Thank you.
Maybe some opportunity for further research.
Absolutely.
Collaborate.
I'll see you after this.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Doc, thank you for the wonderful presentation. It's very insightful and it brings in new knowledge and contributes to the literature. Fantastic thing you have done. Just a question: the sample size. What are the model employees you have chosen? Are they shop floor? Are they middle management? Mix of middle management and shop floor? Because resistance to change and transformational leadership affects everybody, right from the senior most. I'll give you an example. If the CEO is a transformational leadership, starting from the senior management till the junior management, everybody will be impacted. So I just wanted to find out, whom did you look at? Is it the ground floor employees?
Okay, my study on a broader level, this is just an aspect, as I said, it's just an objective from my main PhD thesis. But the main PhD thesis is quite voluminous. I interviewed 38 managers across Durban and Etoquini. Some were middle managers, some top managers, some CEOs. I was traveling to several organizations. I'm not permitted to
Yes, I know